Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm Gordon Richardson, one of the committee members for the Chester and North Wales branch of the BCS. This evening's talk is Tech Talent. Kat, if you go back your slide, thank you. Tech Talent, so breaking down the barriers. So we've got Kat Mawdsley, who is going to take us through this evening's presentation. There is the option to ask questions as we go through. So you'll see in the question box, if you put your questions in there, we'll be monitoring them throughout Kat's presentation. And then depending how the flow goes, we'll either ask them at that point or we'll save them towards the end. Just to let you know, we have got other events coming up throughout certainly for the next 6 months. So keep your eye out on social media for what we've got coming up. So some other brilliant presentations. And also in the chat, what we'd be interested to find out is actually how you found out about this presentation this evening. So with those introductions, I'm going to hand you over now to Kat to take us through the presentation. Thank you, Kat.
Thanks, Gordon. Evening, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction, Gordon. Welcome to everybody, and thank you very much to the Chester and North Wales branch for allowing me to host this webinar tonight. Kat Mawdsley, Senior Apprenticeship Consultant. I work with HR, L&D managers, and specifically IT sector companies around their tech talent strategies. And really tonight is about just taking you through a little bit of a journey of how I approach the subject and hopefully educate you, and maybe you can take something away from this evening. So I'm going to get into it. It's not really a set agenda to the way that I present, but what I have tried to do is kind of take you through this journey. So we're going to start off with the effects of the digital skills gap, and I'm going to work through with regards to diversity and inclusion and how you can become an open and inclusive employer yourself, and just really trying to give you some thought-provoking ideas and backed up with hopefully some really good stats and facts for you so that you can take away from that tonight and have a think about it. So I'm going to crack on and get on with it. So digital skills gap, the absolute reality of it. So I'm just going to go through points with regards to it and just talk around those points as we go forward. So impact on profitability. I suppose some of you will probably know this, that obviously the digital skills gap has a huge impact on profitability for organisations. 3 in 4 businesses actually lack the digital skills that are affecting their businesses at the moment, so it's having a massive knock-on effect to their profitability. There's also increased salaries, so obviously we all know that cost of living is going up, but we have seen over the past 4 years, I've certainly seen over the past 4 years being in this space, that salaries are increasing. You've got increased salaries for business as usual, tech talent. You know, you've got potentially bidding wars going on with regards to people going to one employer and then going to another employer and seeing what they can get the best for them, because they absolutely know that their tech skills are required in those workforces. You've also got emerging kind of issues with regards to cybersecurity and DevOps. So if we look at cybersecurity and DevOps people in specific for this area, you're talking, some of them now are either going out on self-employed consultancy, so they're only working 2 to 3 days a week on a daily rate, because they can charge basically as a consultant what they want to do. And it's emerging now for DevOps people that they're probably requesting around about £85,000 on an annual salary. So it's something definitely to be thinking about with regards to the effect of that on the increased salaries. The digital skills gap affects every single organisation. It's not just the IT sector that the digital skills gap actually affects. If you look at what's happening at the moment now with regards to data transformation, data is driving every decision making within most organisations. And with that comes the requirement of people that are either data analysts or data scientists, and then off the back of that, that's driving transformation as well. So the digital skills gap and tech talent isn't just about the IT sector, it is affecting every single business within the UK. A limited talent pool. So just as we went into COVID, actually, I joined a really good session and I managed to speak to a really good person that was chatting to me, and they used a really good analogy, and I kind of take the analogy forward as well. And it was regarding the limit of the talent pool, and the analogy they used was a paddling pool of talent, and that's what we've kind of got. We've got business as usual people that are obviously in those jobs. They've got those skills that the businesses need. Businesses are absolutely needing people to be able to hit the ground running because transformation is so fast at the moment, being able to keep up with that. But we've also with that got the lack of career advice going into school. So if we talk about it from education settings and how that's feeding into the talent pool, we've got a lack of career advice with regards to a tech career. What does a tech career look like for a young person? How many educators and education establishments could we actually say are giving really good career advice around that? We're also looking at, the digital divide. So if you look at a digital divide and digital poverty, that's having a knock-on effect to digital skills as well. If we also then take the gender gap, for instance, of young people that are interested in tech and a tech career, 62% of male versus 42% female. So there's definitely things that, that's impacting the talent pool. And whilst the government sees improving digital skills as a priority, they've published this in their Skills for Jobs white paper and the UK digital strategy. What we are seeing is that the participation has declined in secondary schools for ICT subjects. So that is also having a knock-on effect into the talent pool, and that's been going on for years as well. So if you kind of consider that, that's having that knock-on effect. Accelerated digital transformation, like I just mentioned, we're all very much aware of what COVID-19 in itself and the pandemic and the 2 years that we've all kind of been through has done. It's fast-paced, that digital transformation, it's accelerated it. If you look at what we were seeing in the news stories back in 2020 around the amount of hacks that were happening in businesses, a lot of my clients that I speak to that are potentially service providers, they absolutely had to be able to be there to support their customers, employees going out and working from home, making sure VPN was secure, that access was there. So all of that has had that knock-on effect to the digital transformation, and because it's been accelerated, the digital skills gap has widened. An economic recovery. So again, going back to what's happened in the past 2 years, the whole of the other 5 points that I've mentioned are now building into this economic recovery. How do we recover as a nationwide? With organisations and employers, how do we actually recover? If we look at, following a study that was published back in November 2019 by 2020, sorry, by Microsoft, they were saying that 80% of UK leaders believe that there has to be an investment in digital skills, because for it to be important for our country's recovery, economic recovery from COVID-19. Whilst 78% as well viewed that having a large digital talent pool was essential to driving UK competitiveness. So that's kind of the reality of the digital skills gap from kind of just those points that I wanted to show. So a little bit from the UK World Skills UK Disconnected report, March 2021. It's a really good report if anybody likes reading reports like I do. But in there, it actually stated that 37% of employers say that their current workforce lacks advanced digital skills. So what does then that impact of the digital skills and the economic recovery and how we're going to come out of 2022 and beyond, what do the digital skills look like? So we have data science, software, cyber, networking, AI, DevOps, and cloud. So we're seeing obviously that a lot of businesses now, like I mentioned before, data is driving transformation. You can then also see that there's the connection to DevOps. So if you are now in a data-driven environment, you're probably looking at the way that you actually develop. You may not be using waterfall and agile anymore. You might actually be starting to do projects in a DevOps area. We're also starting to see that cloud is becoming more and more important in a lot of organizations. We're not seeing as many physical networks. We've still got the data centers, obviously, in the UK, but there's a lot more happening around cloud. Software is always going to be required. Cyber, like I said, back in 2020, all the hacks that we saw, and AI, obviously the link through to robotics and automation. And these are going to continue to develop. Okay, they're not going to be limited. By 2030. There'll be more jobs that come out through the digital skills clusters that probably none of us have even heard of at the moment. So how can you guys influence, and how can organisations influence this and do something about it? Well, you can bridge the gap. So you can build early years, early careers, into your businesses. Really looking at how you bring those people on into your that talent on into your business. Look at your current workforce, upskill them. If they don't have the skills, but you want to keep hold of them because they're really good employees within your business, then look at upskilling that current workforce. And then one area that obviously we're going to look into a little bit more today as well is diverse. Look at that transferable talent. You know, the upskill is relating to your already tech talent within that business. But if you take a larger organisation where somebody may be in a totally different team, not working in ICT, but they want to get across there. So why would you not give the opportunity to diverse that transferable talent, because then you'll upskill within that current workforce. The diverse also builds back to building that early careers. So you could have somebody that's from totally different walk of life, has done a job and found themselves in a job that they've done for a few years, but it's not really their calling and they want to diverse across into tech. How do they do that if an employer doesn't give them the opportunity? So we're going to go into more around the diversity and the inclusion. So EDI, what does it mean? Equality is about the fair treatment of everyone and it's often linked to the legislative framework in the UK and the Equality Act of 2010. So we all know about equality. It's kind of something that every single employer should be embedding. Diversity is the mix of people, basically. Inclusion is the culture in which the mix of people can come to work, feel comfortable and confident to be themselves, work in a way that suits them and delivers your business needs. Inclusion will ensure that everyone feels valued and, importantly, adds value. So let's consider diversity and inclusion and the impact that diversity and inclusion actually has on an organisation. Increased innovation. So if we look at, we are always, tech is generally always talking about being innovative, innovating. And if we look at being able to bring on a diverse workforce, that diverse workforce can be made up of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different faiths, and they've had different upbringings. And when you bring those people together, you're looking at adding new skills to that team, and having those different perceptions as well can bring together innovation. Better problem solving. So the good old saying, a problem shared is a problem halved. But again, it links back to that increased innovation. Being able to have people in your business that have a variety of perspectives, that's going to lead to creativity. That's going to lead to better problem solvings, because you're not just looking at it from one person's view or one cultural view. You're looking at it from a very rounded angle, and your problem solvings can be increased. Increased profit. So these are all linking now. If you increase innovation and you've got better problem solving and creativity is coming out, you've then got an increase on performance. and then therefore your increase on profit. If you look at the increased productivity, there was a study that was done by McKinsey & Co back in 2018, so it's probably a little bit outdated, but I still think it's relevant. And they found that companies that had ethnic and cultural diversity, that resulted in 33% performance increase. So if you think about that, that's linking again back to those increased innovation and better problem solving. Employer reputation. I say this a lot, so for me it's about that social responsibility. It's also when you're looking at it from a diversity and inclusion perspective, it's regarding that ethical responsibility as well. So if you're an employer that really kind of showcases the fact that you are a diverse and inclusive employer, you are open and inclusive in your recruitment processes, but not just in your recruitment process, you're actually adopting being open, inclusive culture within your organisation and within your teams. Word is going to get out. That's your brand. That's your reputation. So talent are going to come and find you. Yes, you'll still put a job out there, but you're then looking at attracting that tech talent that you're wanting to come into your business for those reasons. And it gives you that competitive advantage as well. So in terms of when you're going out onto the open market and you're competing for tenders or you're competing for business, if your brand and your employer reputation is basically speaking before you've even entered into a bid or entered into a conversation with that buyer, then odds on are that buyer will potentially come to you more over somebody that doesn't have a diverse and inclusive workforce. Better employee engagement. So if you are a diverse and inclusive employer, you're open and inclusive, like I said, it's not just a policy, it's not just something that you say we are an open and inclusive recruiter, but you absolutely embrace it into your business, you're going to get better employee engagement. People are going to stay with you because of that, because they feel that they are valued. And like we said before, that quote that I gave you is about adding value back as well into the business. And then the knock-on effect of that, sorry, just went a bit fast with the mouse. The knock-on effect of that is, again, transformation. So if you're wanting to transform as a business or you're having to transform because digital transformation has accelerated, this being diverse and inclusive is also going to help you transform as a business, and it's going to get you to transformation in a much better shape. So I think this is a great quote. So Telly Whitney was the co-founder of the National Centre for Women and Information Technology. And this is one of her quotes that she said, "Diversity drives innovation. When we limit who can contribute, we in turn limit what problems can be solved." And I just think that's a really good quote, which is why I put it in there. So barriers, how do we break them down? So what do I mean by open and inclusive? How do you actually be open and inclusive with regards to your tech talent and your recruitment? And I've kind of broken them down into the areas that I think of, but they're not limited to these areas. Neurodivergent. So when I talk about the neurodivergent areas, it's those that are potentially on the spectrum. We are kind of all on the spectrum at one short form shape, but those that are on the spectrum potentially have got mild Asperger's or autism. I've had, during my time 4 years in the IT sectors, gone to networking events and met with software developers and cyber people. And I actually went to a networking event a couple of years ago. It's actually Women in Tech networking organisation that I'm kind of involved with here up in York. And there was this lady that came to me, and she was kind of quite in your face and straightforward, and we were having a really good chat about software development, and I asked a question, and I can't remember how the lead up was, and she went, "What do you mean, am I on the spectrum?" Yeah, of course I am, but that's why I'm really good at my job. And I just thought that's so good to just be able to be really proud of that and embrace the fact that your employer is taking you forward, even though some employers may look at you and think that might be difficult to manage within their teams. All faiths. So like I said before, if you can have a diverse workforce, innovation obviously is increased. So having somebody from all faiths, making sure you understand those faiths that are coming into your business as well. I think that's very, very important. So making sure that you accommodate for those faiths that come forward and be respectful of those faiths. Women in tech, like I said before when I gave you the statistics with regards to 62% of young males versus 42% of females. We need to be able to give more opportunities to women in tech. Ethnic minorities, again, embracing people from different walks of life. Veterans, so one that I kind of talk a lot with regards to cybersecurity. I think one of the best people to place in a cybersecurity role sometimes is somebody that's ex-military. They've lived their life through a disciplined and methodological approach, which is what you're wanting to do when you're in cybersecurity. But they've also had that element of security. It won't be cyber security, but they'll understand how important security actually is. And the opportunity gap, like I said before, you know, really kind of bridging the gap with regards to digital poverty, really bridging the gap with regards to equal pay, regardless of your gender, really going out there as an employer to your local communities and saying, these are the skills that I need for the future, and giving everybody the opportunity to come forward to apply for those roles. And like I said, opportunity for all. So it's not just limited to these six. These six just give you the idea of how to be open and inclusive. So then, challenge. Changing mindsets. So we've talked about the digital skills gap. Most of you will probably know about the digital skills gap and the knock-on effect in organisations and the knock-on effect to tech talent. We've talked about EDI and how to be diverse and inclusive as an employer. We can talk about it and that's great, but actually what we now need to do is challenge ourselves and change those mindsets. For me, apprenticeship should always be an integral recruitment solution for tech talent. And that's not to say that it's the only place to go to as well. So when I talk to employers with regards to this, I'm not saying apprenticeships are the be all and end all. What I'm trying to encourage employers to do is actually embrace it and look at them, and don't just tip your toe in the water 1 year and try an apprenticeship and then walk away from it. Actually really kind of get them as an integral part of your tech talent strategy, alongside graduate schemes, alongside internships. You know, there's so many opportunities out there for tech talent, but not all of them are being utilised, and this should become more part of a strategy moving forward for everybody to be able to bridge the gap, recover from the pandemic, build their own tech talent pipeline. So build, retrain, retain. So absolutely what I said before, early careers, building those opportunities for people to come in from early careers, upskill, retraining your workforce, whether that be a diverse employee that's come from a totally different area within your organisation and they want to get into the ICT service area or the cyber area or the software area. Bring them across, retrain them, upskill your current tech talent as well. You know, digital transformation is, as we said, accelerated. So they may still need to continue training to keep up with that tech. Retain. If you build and you retrain, you will retain those employees because they won't go elsewhere and look for those opportunities. Technical job specific learning. So apprenticeships, that's what they do. They offer you technical job specific learning. They're so kind of narrow and deep in their learning now that you can take them into those digital skill clusters that we mentioned before. Widen that talent pool, do something about it, change it. You know, I always look at life, and if something's not working or something's not quite right, I look at how I can change it for the better and I can do something about it myself. Embrace it, take it forward, challenge yourself to widen that talent pool for yourself. As an employer or an organisation, if you widen your own talent pool, what you're then doing is it has like a domino effect back into the society. Your demographic location, your local economy, being able to give, you know, local people jobs, widen that talent pool. They may leave you at some point because employees do move on, but then what you're doing is actually you're bridging the gap into the UK digital skills gap, because you're then widening the national talent pool as well. And the fourth one, challenge yourself to future-proof your business. So future-proofing, I see apprenticeships fits in really nicely, because you're going to bring them into your business. They are going to learn exactly the skills that they need within the apprenticeship, but they're going to learn them the way that you need them to learn them on the job, because an apprenticeship, that's purely what it is. It's a career development program. It is on the job learning. That in essence is what an apprenticeship stands for. So being able to take that forward into your strategy helps you to enable yourself to be future-proofing your organisation going forward. So tech talent, future needs. Apprenticeships enable fulfilment of technical specific roles. If I just go back to this area here where I said they are technical job specific learning. So they are from entry level through to degree. Okay, now this is hopefully where you will all see that it now ties in a little bit for you. Networking, cloud, cyber, software, DevOps, data science. So like I said at the very beginning with regards to the digital skills gap and the impact of 2022 and beyond, those digital skill clusters, there are apprenticeships for you in those technical specific roles from entry level through to degree in England. Okay, now I know we're talking about England here, and I know we've got obviously Wales here as well as England. There are frameworks in Wales that give you exactly this as well. They may not have these names, but those opportunities are there for you to be able to take those people into those roles and give that technical specific need. And that's where the gap is. When we're looking at those gaps within the digital skills gap, and we're looking at these digital skills clusters from networking, cloud, cyber, software, DevOps, data science, the gap is in the technical roles. And the business as usual people are going to eventually retire. So we need to be able to be building that next generation coming in. And I don't just mean that next generation with regards to age. Apprenticeships aren't just about 16 to 20-year-olds or 16 to 18-year-olds. Apprenticeships are what they call age agnostic, which basically means anybody from any walk of life can come into that apprenticeship and can take that apprenticeship forward and get on the job learning that is technical specific, that is very narrow and deep, and at the end of it can fulfill a 100% business as usual job role, where they then continue to reapply their vocationally learnt skills onto their job. Okay, so it's not just about young people, and that next IT generation is about anybody from any walks of life, considering that diversity and inclusion, considering adapting moving forward, considering those groups that we talked about, the neurodivergent, the veterans, and all faiths, all backgrounds, digital poverty, opportunity gap. This is your opportunity to build that tech talent for future needs. And just a little quote for you from Charles Darwin, which I think is quite pertinent, is, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change." So that's it, guys. I know we've probably got an hour for the presentation, but I don't really want to kind of be sitting here all the time. I want to be able to start interacting with you guys, and if you've got any questions.
Hi, Kath. First of all, thanks for that. To all our attendees, please remember you can ask questions using the questions panel, or if you prefer to pop your comments in the chat. And also in the chat, if you can just pop whether it's a 1 or a 2 word of how you heard about tonight's talk. So was it email, was it social media, and which social media channel it was. While you guys are popping some more questions in the channel and letting us know how you came along, Kat, I do have a couple of questions for you myself, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course, fire away.
So first of all, obviously, if you're an organisation who's thinking, I'd love to get into apprenticeships, and be able to help nurture that next generation and things like that, but I'm not sure I've got the resource and the training background behind me to be able to do that. And, the size of the company, they may be thinking, oh, I just haven't got the manpower to be able to take on that responsibility. What would you say to people in that position?
And that's a really good question, actually, Andrea. And I could have expanded this into loads of different slides and really drilled down into apprenticeships, but we're literally scratching the surface here. Obviously, with an apprenticeship, you need a mentor in place within the business. You need to be able to have somebody there that is going to be able to also input into that person's learning. An apprenticeship is a tri-party agreement, essentially, delivered by a training provider. So obviously the training provider is going to be delivering the learning, the curriculum of learning, the knowledge, the technical knowledge, as well as what we call the soft skills, so the behaviours and development as well. But you also need to have somebody there that's a mentor within the organisation. And I have come across this before, actually. I've come across micro businesses that are one-man bands, or there's just two of them and they're just on the verge of growing. And it's, whilst we don't want to say no to apprenticeships, because of course we don't, I bang the drum all the time and is really passionate about apprenticeships, it has to be successful for everybody involved. So for a micro business that is probably sat there going, I don't really have the manpower at the moment, is maybe it's not something for now, but maybe it's part of your growth strategy. So if you're sitting there as an employer and you've got this opportunity to grow and you're absolutely looking at that 3 to 5 year plan, then still build apprenticeships into that strategy and into that because like I say, it's connected to transformation. So bring your really good business as usual people and those that are going to share their knowledge back down into an apprentice. And then once you feel that you're at that point within your organisation, within that 3 to 5 year plan, for instance, where you are then going, well, now I'm ready for an apprentice, then yeah, go for it. Because, the apprentices are also really good for micro organisations and especially the SME market, because that is the market that can massively benefit from growing their own talent. They may not always have the salaries that, they can afford to buy 5 business as usual software developers, for instance. But it's got to be the right fit, the right time, and the right candidate and the right opportunity for apprenticeships to fit in.
No, that makes sense. And kind of, I suppose my next question is on the flip side of it. So if you're somebody who's looking and thinking, I really want to take, I want to be an apprentice, but I really want to be an apprentice at X company or in X industry, and that company or industry maybe aren't advertising apprenticeships, or maybe you've reached out and they're a bit like, don't do apprenticeships aren't for me. Is there a way to be able to support those desirable apprentices to help them maybe get where they want to be?
Yeah, so there's a few things with regards to that as well, and I think it all leads back to education. And when I talk about education, I don't just mean an educational establishment. Apprenticeships is all linked to education, whether that's an organisation going out and being educated about actually what an apprenticeship brings to their business. But the same again, and then obviously with the school leavers, being educated that apprenticeships are actually out there and that's what they want to do, and they understand that they want to go into ICT and into the IT sector. There are training providers out there that do build talent pools of apprentices, and they will actively go out and seek employment for them. And some of them, what they'll do is ask them kind of, who are your top 3 companies you'd like to work for? And then obviously try and get a way in and approach that employer from the professional perspective to say, I've got this really good candidate, they have listed you as an employer that they want to speak to. But ultimately as well, if you are an apprentice that's looking and you really want to get into the sector, don't let just one organisation kind of not open the door to you. there'll be others around that, you know, will embrace that opportunity, and there is nothing wrong with banging on the door. And I do say this, and I think it's sometimes been lost. I did it when I was at school. I went and banged on the door. I donned a suit and went around all the agencies at 17 to get myself onto an agency job because I needed the money. But back then I wasn't restricted by I had to be in education until I was 18. That ruling wasn't in place. But there is nothing wrong with kind of going banging on the door, go to the apprenticeship fairs, you know, keep an eye out on those fairs that are open in the cities or your localities. And what you'll also find is that local employers will go as well, and get to know those people. And don't necessarily link in, stalk them, so to speak, but, you know, try and drop it into them that, you know, you'd really love, and go and find out which apprenticeship you'd like to have. And there's nothing stopping you actually going and finding which apprenticeship provider you'd like to be with neither. It just obviously depends what that employer, if they've already got a training provider in there, that'll be the employer's training provider of choice.
No, that's cool. And then one more from me, if I can. I know I'm never ending with this list of questions. Obviously, you've talked a lot tonight about tech, I suppose tech in its truest sense of your software development and that side of it. What would you say about the more, I suppose you could say, supportive roles, so your project management, business analysis, program leads, PMO functionality, that side of it? Because obviously very heavily involved in technical changes and things like that, but not tech, I suppose you could say, in that true sense.
Yeah, I think they are eventually going to evolve into tech in their sense. Like I said before, data is driving everything now. A lot of organisations are starting to look at how they bring data technicians, which is a level 3, or a data analyst in. Business analyst is part of the digital apprenticeship group. And the reason why I've taught tech tonight rather than digital is because digital also covers digital marketing, you know, and content producer and stuff like that. That's under the digital skills apprenticeships. But, you know, I think the PMOs, the project managers, like I say, DevOps. So DevOps is becoming kind of the project, the DevOps apprenticeship is almost like a project management apprenticeship, but in a DevOps cycle. So, you know, where you're managing between networking and infrastructure and your software development team and bringing the two together. You know, that in essence is DevOps, is the DevOps cycle. The job roles are now coming out because DevOps was never really a job role, it was a cycle, but they're starting to come out as DevOps engineers now. And I think, you know, where you can upskill those PMOs, it might not be that there's an entirety of an apprenticeship out there for them, but you still need to be able to give them the digital skills that they need to be able to go and talk to those areas, to be able to oversee that project as a PMO when some of the jargon might not make sense to them. So you've got a responsibility as well to be able to kind of say to those people, well, what do you need? Do that skills gap analysis with them. You know, what do you need in the future? What's coming in? And look at what's coming into the business. So what's coming in? What do we need? You know, how are we going to fulfill this from a client perspective? Where are the people going to come from? You're only as good as the people that work for you. And I'm a massive, massive believer of that. So again, I think we'll either see PMOs and project managers change and evolve over time into different job roles, and into more technical specific job roles where needed. And then those that don't, employers definitely need to upskill them to making sure that they are keeping up with the transformation.
Nope, that's absolutely brilliant. So I'll say thank you very much, Kat, for that. If there are any last minute questions that you want to pop through, please pop them through either on the chat or the questions, and don't forget to let us know how you heard about us. From the committee members, does any of the committee members have any questions that they'd like to come off mute and ask themselves?
No one?
I will take that as a no one. Wow. And in that case, Kat, I will say thank you very much. We've had a thank you, Kat, come through on the questions. So obviously it has been a very useful talk. Obviously, once this session has finished, it will go through the cycle and it will ultimately end up on YouTube. And obviously, if people do have questions further down the line, obviously pop them either through a direct message or on the social media, and I'm sure Kat will be happy for us to bob those across and in due course get answers back to us. But for that, I will say thank you very much, Kat. Thank you very much to all our attendees. And on that, I will stop the recording. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.